Welcome to episode 292 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie or a TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Hello, good morning. Happy super packed weekend. It's free comic book day, Star Wars Day, Cinco de Mayo.
Sure.
One of the best rap beefs in history is happening right now. We're witnessing history. Kendrick is destroying Drake. It's wild. Melissa, how's your weekend?
It's good. I did go see the Phantom Menace re-release yesterday, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in theaters. Kind of
I
wild.
didn't get to see it in theaters. I didn't catch that first one. I come from a Star Trek family.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. Did you happen to venture out for free comic book day at all?
I should have. I drove past that store. I forgot it was happening. There's too many other things to think about.
There is indeed. I spent about $100 at free comic book day. I was so excited. I got this giant, like, murder weapon sized omnibus of the new Teen Titans right here. Big old thick book here. I was super excited to get this, only to come home and realize I already own this.
Oh my God.
So,
how would you forget that you own something that large?
Because when I read those comics, I maybe did not read them in the most legal sense of the term, or at least most of them. And so I bought the book, and it's just been sitting on my shelf because I've already read it. I just like my nice display. I'm buying up a lot of the like post-crisis era DC comics in those like nice hardbacks. And so it's just been sitting there. And I was like, oh yeah, this omnibus, I need that. I bought it and took it home, and it's like, oh no, I don't need that.
I don't need two.
Right, yeah. Indeed. So it's that. I also just got a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. That's been fun. So it's been an action-packed weekend for me.
That's too many words.
It really is.
Pro and Max and a number.
Yeah, iPhone 15 Pro Max plus Max.
Did they ask if you were a pro? Did you have to give any credentials?
Believe me, I'm a pro.
Do they have an amateur version?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like the regular one, then there's the Pro, and then the Pro Max. Is there are three things. It's ridiculous. But yeah, my weekend was action packed, all sorts of stuff. But yeah,
action packed. Bought big book. Realized already owned money. Big book.
Good stuff, Melissa. What are we here to talk about this time on the podcast?
We are talking about the new series of Planet of the Apes movies. When I Google it, I only get a list of the old school ones. These are the new Andy Serkis planets of the
Dawn
Apes.
and War for the Planet of the Apes.
Which I want to say came out in 2011, 2014, and 2017.
Correct.
That's what I was trying to look up. Okay, good. I got it. Ahead of the new one, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which comes out in theaters this week.
The day after this episode comes out to the public, it'll be out.
Yeah.
So
hit that Thursday night screening.
Yeah, good stuff. I think this was perfect timing for us to be able to watch these movies and put out the episode. Because sometimes we'll do stuff like this and it's like, oh, our episode released the week after it came out, or like an entire like week or so before it came out. It's just like, it's almost too much space on either side. And this, we hit it just perfect and it feels good.
It's probably the perfect amount of time for a normal person and not a content creator.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Who must absorb all the information on something within 48 hours.
Needs to happen now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Melissa, Planet of the Apes has a long storied franchise, of course, based off an original novel in 1963. There was the original
Mm.
movie in 1968. There was a number of sequels and stuff. I know that there's been comics and television shows and stuff like that. What is your like how not into the Planet of the Apes? What's your history with the Planet of the Apes? Did you watch these growing up at all?
No, I think I saw the Tim Burton remake and thought the makeup was cool, but then I fell asleep. I primarily know the episode of The Simpsons where Troy McClure stars in Planet of the Apes, the musical on Broadway.
Interesting. Okay. That's kind of wild because I think I almost do the opposite. Is I grew up on the original movies.
Oh.
Charlton Heston starred in the first one. That one was a classic. I still think that Mayovi is incredible. It's really, really good, but it's also one of the movies that I feel like pop culture has just kind of absorbed. So you've probably seen references to the
Mm.
original Mayovi and what happens in there and the big reveal at the end, right? Um, but then, yeah, the sequels after that didn't really hit in the same way. They weren't as good from what I remember. And then when that 2000 or when the 2000 Tim Burton one starring Mark Wahlberg came out, what a weird combination, man. That one I was just kind of bored with, and it was just like,
Mm.
oh, okay, all right, that's it. Cool. That thing exists, I guess.
Mm. Yeah.
And yeah, it was just like, well, that's it for Planet of the Apes. So when these new ones came out, I skipped them. This is my
Mm.
first time watching them, and I think
Me too.
I think a good number of people kind of skipped that first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and then must have caught it down the road on demand or on streaming or who knows what. And was like, actually, that one's not half bad. So that when the second one, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, came out, I think a little bit more people went to go see that one and was like, oh, hey, this is actually pretty good. And then the War for the Planet of the Apes came out in 2017, like you mentioned, and that one is really dang good. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think the common conception has been like, this is actually one of the better trilogies of the decade, or of that decade. I still feel like we're in that decade, even though we're not.
Sure.
But yeah, like general consensus seems to be that people like these. They are really good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree.
I,
They're really
I
good.
I did have a fantastic time with these. I had never seen any of them. Wasn't on the surface very interested in them, but I was hearing how much people really liked them. The
Yeah.
appreciation for how much craft was in these. Like I got my Lord of the Rings shirt on. Of course, I love an Andy Serkis mocap performance. I'll take that
Mm-hmm.
any day in any format. Uh, these were wonderful to watch. Each movie is so distinct, builds on the other ones so well. They've all these subgenres. Like
Yeah.
the first one is a prison break movie. The second one's almost a political thriller, and the third one is Apocalypse Now.
Right. Yeah. They even have a reference to that on some of the graffiti that's on
Mm,
there. It says Apocalypse Now. Um,
Apocalypse Now.
yeah. 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 It's kind of wild because the movies do change quite a bit from movie to movie. It's not a franchise that really sticks with the same actors, except for the motion capture actors,
Yeah.
playing the apes there, which I think is an interesting move. Though this also kind of coincides right at the end of James Franco's career as an actor and stuff like that. I'm sure he's still doing smaller stuff, but all of the allegations and stuff like that around him came out. But yeah, they change so much. They build on each other in ways that both work really well and make sense. But then when you look at the first movie and then where the third one ends up, you almost get whiplash of like, whoa, wait, what? We start here and then we get there. How does that
Right.
work? But they make it happen. They make it work, and it's super entertaining. And the movies just get better as they go on.
The third one was my favorite.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Great performances all around. Melissa, you asked me about a week ago, like, have you seen the second one yet? There's 2 treats for Kyle in there. So
Yes.
I was excited to watch that one and be like, what are the treats she's talking about?
Did you identify the 2 specific things?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, but in that second one, potentially more than 2 things. We'll get to some of that stuff in a bit here, but yeah, I think this is also like not the rise of Andy Serkis's career, because he was already super important for, like you said, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that, doing a bunch of motion capture.
I want to say he was the titular King Kong in the Peter Jackson King Kong.
Interesting. Yeah,
I thought about rewatching that movie, but it's like 3 hours and 10 minutes long. I forgot how long that is.
Yeah. But like, this is the thing that I remember, like, kind of skyrocketing him onto my radar. It for Lord of the Rings, it was like I heard his name and then was like, oh yeah, there's some guy that does the motion capture. He's supposed to be good. And then with these, I was like, oh, Andy Serkis is his name. Okay, I should remember that name. He's a real good actor. So
yeah.
I do want to mention the first movie here. Let's see. The first one was directed by Rupert Wyatt, written by Amanda Silver and Rick Jaffa. Whereas, let's see here. Where are these other ones? I am on the Wikipedia page of the whole franchise, not the actual individual movies. The second one and the third one were both directed by Matt Reeves, who also recently directed The Batman.
Where Andy Serkis plays a great Alfred.
Right.
One of my favorite parts of that movie.
Right.
Not one people talk about as much.
Yeah. The second one, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, was also written by Amanda Silver and Rick Jaffa. However, they also got some help from Mark Bomback. I'm not familiar with. And then War for the Planet of the Apes, also written by Mark Bomback and Matt Reeves. So there you go. Let's see here. Do we have any other kind of spoiler-free things that we want to mention? Some great performances along the way. I don't know.
There's lots to say about this whole trilogy of films. The basic plot synopsis is that Ape gets smart.
Yeah.
If you've only 3 words, if you've got room for only 3, Ape gets smart is the plot. But it's this doctor is trying to create a medicine that will fight Alzheimer's for his ailing father. They are testing it on these apes. He finds that it makes the apes super smart, but it can also cause this deadly virus in humans. I did not know this was part of the series, an entire disastrous worldwide pandemic. Was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
Gotta let the folks know if you're really not in the mood to watch one of those.
Yeah. Interesting, because I think in the second one, when they started to do like news clips of pandemic stuff, was it the bird flu that we had in like 2012, 2014, like that era? There was some flu or something that was happening that I remember it was spreading and was starting to be a big thing there. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's weird for it to be that stuff and not COVID, us just having lived through all of that and still happening. So yeah, it was strange to see all that stuff. Man, they made this before COVID. Wow, wild.
Yeah, everybody talked about Contagion. Nobody pointed out the Planet of the Apes movies
Right?
at
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah. The apes get smarter. The apes are looking for a home. And it on one sense kind of turns into a post-apocalyptic, like, different groups of people just kind of fighting to survive in this world here, and the apes being one of those main groups, and they're just looking for a home, for a place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
leave them alone.
Yeah, I think absolutely check these out. They are a lot of fun. They just get better and better. I know I keep saying the same things, but they're really good. They're real good. So go check them out. With that, though, I say we do a quick break for housekeeping, and when we come back, we will start diving into these a little bit more in depth. So when we get back, there's all that stuff. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. If you didn't know, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. But none of this is possible without your support. Head over to patreon.com/thewhatnauts, and you can get access to over 40 hours of exclusive content, including our Patreon first podcast, The Pilots Club, when you sign up at our $3 tier. Of course, there is a free version of the Pilots Club available, but episodes are exclusive to our Patreon for 2 years before they hit the free feeds. If you're interested in buying merch, we have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more for sale over at thewhatnauts.com/store. Another great way to help us out is by subscribing and leaving a nice rating and review on your podcasting app of choice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for video versions of the show, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, you can always find out more information about the shows we make on our website, thewhatnauts.com. All right, we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We love you a lot. It means a ton. Over on the Pilots Club, our Patreon exclusive show, we are just about to put out our episode on Pan Am. We've already recorded it. It will be out by time this is public. So be on the lookout for that. Pan Am was an interesting one. It was a pilot that I really enjoyed watching, that I think excellently juggled everything that was happening, but then also equally may have been too much. But yeah, it was an interesting show for sure, starring Margot Robbie. If you want to see some of her early work, Pan Am is what we were talking about over on the Pilots Club. And then over on the free version of the Pilots Club, we put out our episode on Yasuke, which was an anime available on Netflix about the first Black Samurai. So there you go. Go check all that stuff out. Let's see, right here on the review show, last month was Apple April. We got to do some cool shows that were available on Apple TV Plus, including Slow Horses, which is the one we did last time. Good old spy show with Gary Oldman, who's also in the second Planet of the Apes movies here.
I'm going to have to go back through our archives and see if that's a review show first that we've accidentally had the same actor in 2 topics back to back. Yeah. Except for last year when we had Paul Giamatti month, but we did that on purpose.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So go check out our podcast on Slow Horses. That one was a lot of fun. And then over on the Captain's Log, we got to talk about some fun things, including Melissa, you got to go watch the movie Sasquatch Sunset, which may be somewhat similar to Planet of the Apes. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't
Not
seen
really.
it.
Not really. You should see it. I really liked it. It is a specific time. Never
I'm sure it
before,
is.
perhaps never again will you have a time like Sasquatch Sunset.
Yeah. On top of that, I finally saw the guy on all of those neighborhood watch stickers that they say to watch out for. I saw him. Go hear my story about that over on the Captain's Log. We have a lot of fun over there. But that's about it for housekeeping for right now. So let's get into spoilers. Bam. There we go. Melissa, where would you like to start with this one? Because I honestly kind of find it fascinating that you basically started with the Tim Burton one, just in the past, and then came here to watch these three.
I only started with that one because that's what Blockbuster had, and I was like 12. And I'm like, I like Beetlejuice. I'll give this a try. I sincerely don't remember. I know that I did watch that movie. Don't ask me to recall anything about it.
I think that's most people's take on that one. To be honest, I know I watched it. I don't remember a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
but I knew the story of Planet of the Apes. Alien, astronaut. That's the word I meant. That starts with A. Astronaut crash lands on planet, thinks that it is another different space planet. He's like, oh no, I got lost. What's the strange new ape planet? I hate it here. I want to see another human. And then he sees the top half of the Statue of Liberty. And he's like, I was on Earth all along. No, yeah. I'm the last human left. And then I don't know what happens. There's several more movies.
Yeah. It's like there's like Underneath Planet of the Apes, Escape from Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, or something like that. Yeah, there's a handful of them. Did you catch the Easter egg to the space mission in the first movie of these three here? So I'm
not specifically remembering what it is, but I mean, like, monkeys in space, for better or for worse, go together hand in hand.
Yeah, there's a space launch that's happening, and it's supposed to be the first manned mission to Mars. It's just kind of happening in the background of the first movie. And so, yeah, knowing a little bit about the older movies, I was like, I wonder if this plays a factor. Like, if in the third movie, this spaceship crashes and like they're like by time that third movie is there, it is the Planet of the Apes, which is not the case. But I was, like, I wonder if they are setting it up to do a thing like that. It could happen. Because these also kind of serve as a prequel to the original. They're not like actually meant to be like you watch these and then you can go back and watch the original. But in terms of taking that like original idea and concept, right? They're like, what if we told the story about like how it happened, how we got there to that point? Which I thought was neat and a new, like, let's not just remake the old one, but let's expand the story here. So
this is the place to go. Out of the world of prequels, this is probably right up there at the top with Monsters University. I'd have to rack my brain for other excellent prequels.
Never actually saw that one.
Monsters University is a lot of fun.
Good stuff.
So go ahead, please. I was interested in this. I'd heard great things about these movies. But the first time I saw the trailer for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I thought, this is gorgeous. I love these apes. I love to see how they behave and how they speak. I can tell this is such a performer's showcase. I want to jump in on this. And my local theater has this big poster for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and it says, coming 2024. And the 0 in 2024 is like, it has that like diamond symbol in the 0. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I wonder what significance that has. And then I start Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and there it is. That's the window at the top of James Franco's house where little baby Caesar lives.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that symbol that's consistent throughout all of these movies. I really like the consistency in this series, how much attention to detail there is. Nobody talks about that window. Nobody ever specifically points at that window. It's just a distinct enough design. You see it in the set dressing.
Yeah.
Caesar peers out the window. He's kind of kept up there because he's an ape who maybe should not be on the street among the children. I'll get back to that. But then when he's put into this, what James Franco thinks is a shelter, but it turns out to be more like a prison. He like gets a little piece of, it's like a little pebble that can act like chalk, and he draws the window on the wall to make him feel like home.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see just that symbol continue. Like they'll build something like it in the ape habitat. And watching the trailers again, repeatedly seeing the trailer as I go to more and more movies after now having watched this trilogy, I'm like, oh, one of the apes has that symbol like made out of twigs, like twined together as like a medallion around his neck. This has like almost religious, like cultural significance.
It's become a symbol of like hope and freedom to them. Yeah. Or power, even. Who knows?
I just think it's nifty that I see this one little detail on a poster and I'm like, gee, I wonder what that is. And there is a whole thing there.
Yeah. You can go down the rabbit hole.
Movies. Yeah. But I didn't remember exactly when all of these movies came out. I'm like, yeah, they're from the last couple years. The first one coming in 2011 really surprised me because that was only 2 years after that incident where a chimp did rip a woman's face off. The inspiration for that character in Nope, if you remember her.
Yeah.
Who could forget? That was only 2009, which is shocking. That feels like almost an old legend of a story, like that happened decades ago.
Yeah.
We were in college when that happened. And there's a scene in this first movie where like Caesar, first he's like a little baby when James Franco takes him home. Wish I remembered James Franco's character's name. Doctor something.
I'll look it up.
He's definitely a doctor. He's kept inside. He's cared for. It's like he's not supposed to be out. It's kind of a secret that he even has him.
Dr. Will Rodman.
Dr. Will Rodman.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great porn name in another context.
I mean, there's also Dennis Rodman, the eccentric.
Dennis isn't a verb.
Bulls player who famously, I'm not going to go into all that. Anyways,
we're talking only apes today, not bulls. But like Caesar will look out the window and like see like neighborhood kids playing. And one day he gets out and he wants to join them. And all of these neighbors are like keeping their distance and being wary. And it's the strangest feeling because you're both seeing it from Caesar's point of view where you're like, no, this is a very intelligent, kind, caring being who just wants to like see the outside world and play with your kids. And what? You don't even know him. Get to know Caesar before you shun him. And trying to hold that in the same space as a chimp can be very dangerous. Truly very dangerous. Trying to think of both things at once was jarring.
Yeah. It was interesting that this one came out in 2011 for me as well, because watching the movie, my mind immediately went to The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. Like their science lab has that same look. The Amazing Spider-Man came out the year after, in 2012. But to keep the like Spider-Man Easter egg, according to Wikipedia on the Rise of the Planet of the Apes section for the cast, it says that Franco was cast after talks with his Spider-Man co-star Tobey Maguire broke down. So we almost got that first movie with Tobey.
Interesting.
In there. Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting, fun fact.
Huh.
So
I thought of Venom a lot Because Venom also takes place in San Francisco. One
Sure,
of the
right? Yeah.
classic San Francisco films, Venom. That also involves like labs and begin human trials and a space mission.
There's just something about like that era that they have a certain look. It's like that clear glass plastic. Like instead of
Yes.
writing on a white board, they write on
Yes.
those clear glass
Fringe.
things in science. Yeah, it's just there's just something about that look that is so distinct that then kind of not quickly, I should say, but like didn't really last super long in terms of like the way movies look now, if that makes sense. I don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, I was just like, this looks of the time, which then reminded me of Mission Impossible and that whole franchise, and how basically it happens that like each one looked like different action movies in each decade, which I thought was neat. This almost has that, but not really. But yeah, I just it has it's like such a specific look for me. But I did enjoy this first movie, despite it being maybe my least favorite of the trilogy.
Yeah. Just because it
Um,
is the simplest, the most straight. It is kind of what you expect it to be.
right. Yeah.
With the addition of the Toy Story 3 prison break sequence.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So this whole these whole movies, as we kind of mentioned, rely on the premise of ape gets smart, right?
Oh,
Were there any moments in this that you weren't necessarily confused by, but it kind of had to wave away by like, I guess they're smart.
in the third movie, when uh when Caesar's wife dies, I
Okay,
was
yeah.
surprised that he referred to her as his wife and not his partner or his mate.
His mate, yeah.
Like did apes adopt the concept of marriage? Do you have ceremonies?
Or
How
at
much
least
do
the
you have
human
of human
word
society?
for it, right?
Yeah,
And instead
yeah.
of mate, just use the word wife or husband. That's an interesting one. Even in the first one, when they're doing the bridge sequence, this is a kind of structure that none of these apes have really experienced or gotten to play on. But immediately, they're like, okay, you guys climb up, you go underneath. How do they know they can hang on to something underneath? They've never been here before. They don't know if it's smooth or if it like, and it like it was one of those things that I was just like, well, it's not super important. I can just kind of wave it
Yeah,
away
like
with my
they have
hand and be like, they're smart. They know how a bridge is made somehow.
there is a
I guess.
TV in their little prison. They
Yeah.
probably saw footage of the Golden Gate Bridge on TV.
Yeah, like that could be an explanation too. But that like there were a couple moments like that throughout the movies that I was just like, I mean, I guess they're super intelligent, but also how super intelligent? Like
Right.
what is
Give
the
me a
limit
test.
here? Yeah.
What can't they do?
Because they also like don't seem to really know about medicine, which is interesting. Or that like, hey, human, but they're not solving equations and like they don't have their own scientific labs. Maybe they will by time we get to this new movie. Who knows? But yeah, like they still seems not like I am the super smartest being on the planet, right? But just like, hey, I have about the average intelligence of a human, maybe more in some cases. But that was it.
They're like gremlins, but not the brainy gremlin.
Sure, yeah. Indeed.
Another aspect of the culture that the first movie reminded me of. This was from 2011, and around that time, around like the late 2000s, early 2010s, right when you and I were like graduating high school and going into college, there was this jokey extremism in the culture. And I'm talking about like memes going around Facebook at the time, Facebook, maybe early Twitter or Tumblr, where it's like a painting of George Washington and he's riding a Tyrannosaurus Rex and he's playing like a guitar, like a flying V electric guitar. This is the
It
era
was
of put bacon on everything.
Those Old Spice commercials where he's like, I'm on a
Yes.
horse. Swan dive.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
That's the perfect encapsulation of it, where everything is the most. It's a hat on a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
That belongs specifically to that era? When you get to the Golden Gate Bridge sequence at the end of the first movie, and it's like, gorilla on a horse jumping over a police car. It feels a lot like that. It feels like perhaps the most elevated, elegant possible version of that, but still that.
So I agree with you, especially. So I brought this up because I watched these with my partner, and so I was like, Rachel, it looks so weird to see a gorilla riding a horse. That must be a damn strong horse, because those gorillas aren't light at all. Like those things will fuck you up. And so she looked it up, and she saw something that like horses can carry up to like 20 or 30% of their own body weight. An average horse weighs, I forget how much she said, but she was like, so it kind of seems like, hey, maybe if that's a real big horse, it actually maybe could hold a gorilla. And it's just one of those things of like, scientifically, maybe it might work, but also it just looks kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm right there with you that like there's no way that horse would be able to do that. It does feel extra the most. Stuff like that.
Extra.
Oh, she literally texted me right now. She must have heard me in the next room. Gorillas up to 350 for a minute. Gorillas weigh up to 350 pounds for a male, and horses can go up to 1,200 pounds for a male. So if it's like 20 or 30%, right? Like it could maybe work, especially if it's a big horse. So
right, like the highest end of horse, maybe the lowest end of gorilla. Okay,
right, yeah, something
good
like
to
that.
know. Thanks, Rachel, our science officer.
Thanks, Rachel. She must be
That is
watching the live stream or something. Who knows?
That is the one thing I knew about these movies going in, was the imagery of the apes riding horses.
Yeah.
Which makes so much sense, you know, especially if this is a post-apocalyptic world. Horses are way more practical than, you know, anything
finding
motorized, anything
gasoline. Yeah.
Right. But it is a very human thing to do. There aren't other non-human animals that ride a horse unless a human trained them to do that.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure if you went to a circus of years past, a chimp would ride a horse there. So to see them adopting this of their own volition for their own practical means. And I was curious though, like, how do these apes look at other animals? What is their relationship to their horses? Do they have any sense of how humans treat horses? And are they like, we'll do the same? Or do we need to do something better coming from animal to animal? I hope that is something maybe we get to in this movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the forthcoming film, where we see an enrichment of ape society, where it's like, do you have pets? Do you have art? We've proven that you are intelligent. You can build these structures and design these battalions for war, but do you have theater? Do you create in that way?
Yeah, I think that'd be fascinating.
What's the great ape novel?
Yeah, the next great ape novel. Yeah, because I know the films have been critiqued and looked at generally favorably for a lot of different ways, right? There are I think with unfortunately with America's history, there are certain layers to these films and connotations that come with it that begged just like steeped in our history with slavery and
Mhm.
the way that historically black people have been likened to apes or monkeys or stuff like that. It sucks that it happened, but it did,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think the movies do a fairly good job at kind of walking that line and not really bringing up those connotations,
Mhm.
but still having them there, right? Like they can't really get away from it. Um, but it's that it's the way they also like there's kind of like Cold War stuff going on. There's also animal rights, like do we experiment on them, is this
Mhm.
humane, like all of that stuff. So then to then take that question a step further and be like, so then yeah, how do the monkeys try to improve on anything? Do the apes try to improve on anything? Like, yeah, do they treat the horses better? Are they
Mhm.
seen as partners rather than a mode of transportation? Uh, do they create art? Do they see a use in it? Do they start to get into science? Like we said, they don't real like
Yeah.
they know medicine exists, but they're not out there like with a chemistry set, like trying to
Mhm.
solve
And
Alzheimer's.
I forget exactly what happened to the drug that made all of these apes so smart and if all of it was destroyed or exactly like where it is. But is there a point where the apes are like, we are the only animals that have this now? Do we have any kind of responsibility to try and share it with other animals?
Sure, yeah, yeah,
Do
that'd
we have
be
smart horses? Is this also
interesting.
Mr. Ed origins?
Right? Yeah. Secret Mr. Ed origins. um yeah, I don't know. It is interesting because science fiction also does a really good job of talking about our problems by removing it by one
Mm,
step. So in a sense, this is also like, well, the apes are us. Like they're
mm,
getting lost in their hate. They're going to war over stupid reasons. They're just trying to have a family and survive. Like
mm,
it's the same stories, which I think is partly what makes these movies so effective, right?
mm.
Um, that like it's just us. There's no
But
difference.
there's also the question of what do these apes know about human history and society? I have to like watch that first movie again and see like exactly what was this family teaching Caesar, Dr. Will Rodman and his father. Like his father seemed like he loved music, he loved Shakespeare. That's why Caesar is named that. You
Hmm.
know, did they teach Caesar about what slavery was or civil rights or anything? We are putting these things on the apes that I don't know if the apes are aware of. The apes might have
Yeah,
no idea that they are repeating these patterns because they never thought to look into the history of human civilization. They only thought about the humans all as one amalgamated thing, humans versus apes right now, not the history of humans versus other humans.
yeah. I think in kind of a larger scale, Caesar is thinking about that stuff, which is why he makes the like ape don't kill ape
Mhm.
rule. And then as he starts to not walk that back, but as he starts to not necessarily follow that rule for the greater good, there was a line or two in there that he's like, I see we're just repeating their mistakes. Like we're just kind of doing the same things. Um, but yeah, that's what I like. I think these movies kind of allude to a bunch of different issues or topics or themes and does a pretty good job. Like even if they don't go in depth on any of the haze, does a good job of like representing them or
Mm.
including them, where it's not like, well, I guess I don't really know why this thing was included in the movie. I guess it didn't really need to be. They all felt like, no, this all makes sense. This all has like wrapped up into one
Yeah.
great thing. Yeah.
Jumping ahead to the third movie, War for the Planet of the Apes, which really wears its apocalypse now influences on its sleeve. That is both a movie acknowledging, whose shoulders it stands on and paying homage to past greats of its specific subgenre of this war movie. But you can also imagine Woody Harrelson's character is behaving like Colonel Kurtz on purpose, because now that that character is in a war scenario, he is thinking about war movies he has seen. And he's
Yeah.
like, I'm there now. I've reached that place. This must be how I behave.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I have to mention this since you jumped to the third one. The third one was by far my favorite. I think it is
Me
the
too.
best of the trilogy, kind of by a long shot. But there was two things about it that one I thought was really ridiculous. And then one, not as much of a big deal. I don't think the name fits War for the Planet of the Apes.
There isn't as much war as you think there's going to be.
Yeah, the second one had more war scenes, it felt like. And the battle that was happening in this third one really wasn't the apes war. Like they're just kind of a third party to all of this, a third player. And so it just felt like, yeah, I get why they went with War for the Planet of the Apes. It sounds intense. It sounds dramatic. I will go see that in theaters, right? That sounds awesome. But I just felt like it didn't exactly fit. But what are you gonna do? You're kind of locked into the naming convention, right? So the thing that I thought was ridiculous, however, they are at this old weapons depot. It's supposed to be this military encampment. Here he is, big macho meathead bullet shooting. We're a military base here. No one sees this small kid just walk inside. There's no guards. No one's looking. There's apes standing right outside. You guys don't see them? What are you doing? You have lookouts. And she walks in. She's walking around. She's feeding the apes. No one's around. Turns out most of them were in a meeting. They just left their whole thing open. What are you doing?
I can't imagine that in this post-apocalyptic future, they don't have the resources for like cameras and a guy sitting at a bank of monitors watching what's I think it has less surveillance than we would expect there to be. But you are right that there should be at least a guy out there in a watchtower who's like, hey, in this future where there are extremely limited human beings and we're in the middle of nowhere, who's that one girl?
And there are people on patrol. We know as those scenes progress, like there are people on patrol, like walking up and down these little like catwalk like structures. As they're the scene where the guard goes into the place that they're keeping all the apes locked up. And they throw the poop at him to lure him to this one spot where he then gets pulled into the hole. How does he not see a giant hole right next to him and think, wow, this is a problem. I shouldn't go anywhere near this. Or maybe they're escaping through this hole. Where does this hole like there's no thought to all of that. I'm just like, oh, this is ridiculous. But it's still such a good movie. How does this happen?
Point number one, great restraint in saving the poop throwing until like the climax of the third movie. Second, the third movie introduces this angle where not only have humans been dying off due to this virus, like the other side of the coin from the drug that made the apes so smart, but now they are becoming more simple, kind of. Yes, kind of more animalistic, where like they're losing the ability to speak. They're still sentient, they still have thought, but their thoughts are no longer very complex. You're right, regressing. But I don't know if that can explain. I just didn't see there was a hole there.
Right? Like
Mm.
it's just I don't know. And then I the one thing I did like with the whole aspect of the humans kind of regressing, as much as it felt kind of like pulling the rug out from under you, the moment where Woody Harrelson's character is revealed to have gotten it from the
Yeah.
doll that the girl had, like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great moment because yeah, it is Caesar in the same position that that Woody Harrelson's character was in when he had to kill his own son. Right? It's this like idea of like, now I'm the smart one. You've regressed. Do I show you mercy now? Like, do I do
Mhm.
all? It's just this. I want to kill you so bad because you destroyed my family. Like
Mm.
all like you've made this like you've made this hatred well up inside me, and
Yes.
to kill you would just at least in the moment feel so good. But then
I
he's just like, I just can't.
but I think it's also that that character would want himself to be killed if he got sick.
Oh sure, right.
That like taking
um
him out would be an act of both hatred, but also I respect you as a contemporary, as a rival. I know what your wishes are. I know how
I
you would want to go out as a fellow warrior.
Yeah, I agree. I think he would also I feel like he's also a character that would believe he wouldn't get that disease,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Mm.
So yeah, there's two sides to all of that. But
Let's rewind a bit. Talk more about the second movie. Then there is more stuff in the third movie I do want to get to.
okay,
But
cool.
the two things in uh Dawn of the Planet of the Apes that I knew you would love were beloved character actor Kirk Acevedo
Yep.
and indie comics.
Yeah. Yeah. I picked up on the comics right away. Wasn't sure if that was the thing or if it was Cody
Yes.
Smith McPhee.
I
Because like
love him.
sure, right? Like we talked about the power of the dog here on the review show sometime back. But then also Gary Oldman is in it, right? Like
Gary Oldman,
we
good.
just saw like that's also, we know he's an incredible actor, so that could
Mm,
have been the thing. Having Matt Reeves direct this could have also
yeah.
been the
Like
second thing of like,
great
hey, the
great stuff all
Batman, right?
around. A
Yeah.
really nice cast in this second movie. Jason Clarke, Carrie
Hmm.
Russell rounding out our humans. Toby Kebbell, who was the husband in Servant, plays Koba, the
Mm,
rival ape. Which there are some performances where I can tell who that person is. Like I can hear it in the voice.
yeah.
I
Uh,
recognize the vague shape of Andy Serkis's face and the intonation of his voice. But for some of them, like I just watched all of Servant, I could not tell that was Toby Kebbell. Some of them are so well masked.
right. Yeah. They're really, really
Ju- Judy
good.
Greer as Caesar's wife, no idea. I just have to take your word for it that that's Judy Greer.
It's almost like the stunt casting for the stormtroopers that they do in all the Star Wars movies, where it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, James Bond was in there. It's like, well,
Right.
they're all masked. You can't see it. So I
I guess
guess
if I know that person very well and if you tell me to listen for them, then I can hear them.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
jumping out to me otherwise.
It was really weird for me to see Jason Clarke in this second movie because, or not weird for me to see him in that, but I watched this second movie, and then over the past couple days, I also went back to HBO Max and I finished watching Winning Time: The Rise of the
Ah,
Lakers Dynasty, and he's the actor that plays Jerry West, who the NBA logo is him. It's based off
oh,
of Jerry. It's based off of Jerry West. Um, But in this second movie here, it was interesting because I don't think Jason Clarke's character is really all that interesting. And I think he plays that position really well in this. Like, I don't mean to be like Jason
Yes,
Clarke is not
I
a good
understand.
actor. He's a good actor for nailing this role, as in this, like, this guy I don't really care about. He's not the action hero.
Yes.
He's a scientist, engineer kind of person, but he seems more like a blue collar worker kind of guy. And he just kind of disappears into the background, as we literally see him do by the end of that movie. Just, all right, I'm gonna disappear.
I do like how none of the human characters carry over at all. They're not even like mentioned. At no point in the second movie does Caesar wonder, how is the Rodman family doing?
Yeah, right.
No,
Or
the humans are so disposable.
what happened to that one guy whose car I smashed? Or right? Like, whatever happened to him?
I do like that you've got this ragtag band of survivors with these different goals and emotional responses. Like, Kirk Acevedo is so angry at the apes and he lashes out, and like the whole movie is really Kirk Acevedo's fault, and they make him go sit in the car alone.
Yeah.
But Cody Smith-McPhee is Jason Clarke's son. The mother, I forget how recently, has died. Carrie Russell like met Jason Clarke at some point in survival activities, and now they've become bonded, and it's like her and Cody Smith-McPhee know, well, we've formed a family unit now, simply by the fact that this is a post-apocalyptic universe and all humans have to stick together, and we both love Jason Clarke, but we are still getting to know each other. There's still that awkward like step-parent, stepchild dynamic that's evolved.
Yeah. Stuff like that can be, it feels so out of place when you think about the world around them and what's happening, but then also it's like yeah, that makes sense.
You came from nowhere, you will go nowhere. The human story is done at the end of every movie, which isn't to say that it ever feels that flimsy or false or artificial. The human story is always filled in enough.
Yeah, it's filled in enough. There are some gaps, but it's also not necessarily important. But there are some things, like, I do kind of, what did happen to Will Rodman? I do kind of wish to know, like, where did he go? Is he supporting them somehow? Is he supplying that? Is he dead? Did he not make it? I don't know. Would have liked to see that, but then also, I lost my train of thought. There was something I was going to be like, I wish we saw more of this thing that wasn't explained. Oh, here, in the second movie, the camp of survivors that we stick with, they mention that a few of them are immune to this stuff. And then in the third movie, we're introduced to this virus is now regressing humans to a simpler state. But there's no discussion about, like, those two camps of, like, what's happening there? What is the next step of that? How do these two camps interact, so to speak?
Right. How can you be immune from regressing? There's the people who are regressing, but are there still the people who are like coughing up blood and dying, like how the virus started? And this is such a localized series of movies. Everything seems like it takes place right in this little corner of like San Francisco and the Pacific Northwest. What is the rest of, if not the world, like what is America? Like, we really have no sense of any. Okay, the second movie starts with that big news
hit the
montage.
Entire world, yeah.
Yes, everybody's got it, but we don't know more details. We don't see a lot on the news about, is there a camp of apes in China somewhere that is also very smart? Do they have their own society that they are also evolving? We're looking at a very localized pocket of everything. And you're just sort of left to wonder, like, exactly what's happening in other parts of the world.
I kind of took it as, with the virus spreading, it seems at the very least to be transmitted either through the air or through direct contact, right?
Mm.
And as society breaks down, zoos kind of go unkempt and stuff like that. I wonder if a number of these animals do get to escape, but then do come in contact with humans who are affected or blood that has been infected.
Mm-hmm.
And there are smaller pockets of this throughout the world somewhere, but the main big localized one is Caesar and his camp.
Mm-hmm.
They were all like directly exposed to
Mm-hmm.
it. But that's just kind of what I took it as, but also we don't know the rest of, like, are there more cities like kind of what we
Yeah.
saw in the second
It
movie?
it would have been nice if, like, somebody in that crowd in the remains of San Francisco shouted out, like, "Yeah, I had to travel from Tallahassee to get here." Like,
Yeah,
how far are people coming from? How few lights are there left anywhere?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. um Man, yeah,
Fi
oh, go ahead, were you about
like,
to?
I was gonna ask, who are some of your favorite apes?
um I don't know. To be honest, I kind of feel like this is maybe a weak point of these movies. I know
Really?
Caesar, I know Maurice. Beyond that, I know Koba because he was kind of a villain.
Mhm.
But when they
There's
intro, like, I don't know how to tell Rocket apart from
Right.
the other
You can tell
ones.
them
I like
apart You can tell them apart visually. I think they do a good job
they
at
do
that.
a
But
good job of, like, oh, this one has a big scar, but like
yeah,
their personalities aren't as
right.
distinct as, like, who is Luca? I think there was one named
Yeah.
Luca, right? Like, obviously I know
How it
Winter because he's the white gorilla, right? Like, but
yes.
generally speaking, I couldn't really latch on
Mm.
to many of these apes here. Um,
Personality-wise for sure. Like, I can't tell you how Rocket behaves in a
right,
different way than anyone
correct.
else behaves. And maybe this is something that we would come to have a greater sense of if we watch these movies more than once.
Yeah.
But uh
However, I do have one more thing
mhm.
to add on that. I think the third movie, especially introducing, and I don't remember his name, but the monkey
Yes.
that was by himself. I think he was a circus monkey,
Mhm.
right? And he has the jet jacket. He's the one wearing vests. He's the comedic relief.
Yes.
Not only did they do a great job with the comedic relief
Yes.
in this, because it's not jokes, it's not a punchline, it's him just
Mhm.
not understanding how binoculars work, and they just have to flip it
Yeah.
around, and the whole joke is him like, why so small? Flip. Oh. And like
Yeah.
it's enough of like a lighthearted comedic moment to distract me from this like real intense situation that's happening, right? Um, but like he was very obviously one that was distinct in his personality, in his look, in the way he talked, like all of
Mhm.
this stuff that I actually thought he was a good character. I
Yes.
like him.
Yes,
I don't know if
that
anyone else did,
character
but I
he
like
was
him.
my favorite. That character is Bad Ape. I think he comes from a local
Bad Ape, yeah.
zoo. So he has seen a lot more humans than anybody else has. He has more like human habits sort of ingrained on him, which is why he likes to wear clothes. I think part of the reason is also that it seems like he's a bit of an older ape and like he doesn't have as much hair. So the clothes also seem to like be
Keep him
keeping him
warm.
warm. But
Yeah.
also seems like he's used to humans, used to seeing them around, used to a human presence, and he kind of mirrors that a little bit because he hasn't been around any other apes in a long time. Right. He like got out, he escaped, and he's just sort of been surviving on his own in the detritus of human society. He lives in
Yeah.
an old abandoned ski chalet.
Yeah.
And
Um,
when you first see him,
he's a great one.
you see this figure sneaking around, and at first you're not sure because all bundled up in winter clothing. You don't know if this is an ape or a human, and then you can tell, okay, by the proportions, that is an ape. Why is an ape wearing that many clothes? Why is it disguised? Who is this? This is another like separate faction within the apes since they started breaking apart after Koba's rebellion. And to learn that it's just this one like lonely outsider who like just doesn't get what's happening. He's not on the level of anybody else and he's so sad. Like he's so
Mm,
endearing and so sad. You can tell he's like he hasn't had anyone around him. He's so lost. He doesn't know what's going on. He's so lonely. You really feel for Bad Ape. They give him like a good like 2-minute monologue that's just him explaining to the other apes what his story is and where he comes from. You really feel for him, and that is I think the right time to add that. This movie needs a little levity. It needs like a different type of character than we've seen before. It is a great performance by Steve Zahn.
yeah,
Great use of
yeah,
Steve Zahn.
yeah. Um, Something else that I want to praise these movies for is their like the progression of what the apes learn over the
Yes, how
course of
they
the movies.
Oh, I thought
Like
you were going to talk about the progression of what they look like cuz over these 3 movies watching these apes age was really
yeah,
fascinating.
that too. I felt like one of my least favorite things of the second movie is that it was so dark. Like it was always happening at night or in the forest, and like it was just kind of hard to see things exactly. Um, but I think it was them really trying to figure out how to light the apes better. Like, can we do this in low
Mhm.
lights? What do they look like? Just stuff like that. And then in the third movie, it felt like they were trying different textures of the fur. Like, this is what it's like when it's wet. This is what it's like when it's
Mhm.
frozen. Or yeah, when they're older and there's less and there's more skin showing. Like, what does that look like? And so you can see like the progression of what they look like change almost, and as they age, like does the hair get a little more white or gray, like a little beard? How do they do all of that? But with what they learn too, I also thought that was interesting because obviously there's that one important scene in the first movie where Caesar finally talks and he says the word
Yeah.
no. He screams the word no.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the only thing he can say at the moment. Like he hasn't really like he might like understand the word, but he hasn't used his mouth to make
Mhm.
those other words yet and hasn't figured that out. And so then by the end of this third movie, where he's much more comfortable talking, it's still not perfect and fluent and stuff like that. There is still this kind of choppiness to it, but you
Mhm.
can tell he's progressed, right? There are apes that have progressed to his level as well. But then to even see characters like Bad Ape, who's maybe a little more advanced because he's been around humans more, but then also like he can't understand sign language
Yes.
and like hasn't been taught that. And so there are these like distinct camps of like there's apes that can sign, there's apes that can speak, there's apes that have a little bit more personality, there's apes that like do like they're I thought that was neat. Despite me not really being able to be like, and that's Rocket, and that's Luca, and that's
Yeah.
whoever this is, right? Like, it's just like, okay, I can see these kind of camps developing here of like, oh, here's the ones that sign, here's the ones that speak, here's the ones that maybe want to be more like humans, here's the ones that want
Mhm.
to not be, right? Um, so yeah, there's just
Yeah.
lots of little small interesting details in
Yes.
all of these that are
Yeah, I
fun
like
to
that
think about.
the primary language of the apes is ASL, and some apes it seems like can speak if needed, but that's not their dominant form of communicating. Like they're more comfortable
Yeah,
speaking in sign. And I like that the little girl who's lost the ability to speak after this virus, you see her slowly picking up
yeah.
word by word the sign language. I like that it happens to her too, and you have kind of a baseline for what a human can be able to learn in this new state also.
Yeah,
I like in the
absolutely.
second movie when Jason Clarke and his team need to jumpstart like a hydroelectric plant, and they know that the apes don't need to know every technical detail, but they're trying to get like the basics of the plan and what they need. And like, can some of you, help us to just like carry things around and turn levers and stuff? It is nice to see communication happening in that way. And like, I don't know everything, but I have learned enough to be able to cooperate with you
Yeah.
in this scenario.
Yeah, indeed. These were good. I'm glad we got to
Yes.
watch these. These were a lot of fun.
I'm very excited
like
for this new one.
intense and emotional as they were fun, right?
Yes.
They were good. Yeah, I'm excited to go see this new one. Should we do a reactor core of the new one? I feel like since we did these, we should at least check in on that fourth one.
I'd like to see it as soon as I can. I still have to make plans with my friend for when we're going to schedule this in, especially with next weekend being Mother's Day. I don't know. I don't like committing to a reactor core ahead of time when I don't know how much I'll have to say about anything.
It doesn't have to be super long, but can just be like a little coda.
But sometimes when it's that short, I'm like, this could have been a section on the captain's log. We've got so many podcast feeds. Trying to figure out exactly where one thing goes. This would definitely be at least like a 10-minute captain's log chunk for me. We'll see. I don't know. I can't tell from here.
We shall see indeed. Cool. Do you have any other kind of final things you want to say on this one, or should we move along to bingo?
We didn't mention it by name. In the second movie, Cody Smith McPhee has a copy of the graphic novel Black Hole that he's reading. And like Maurice comes up and Cody Smith McPhee is like, it seems like the apes don't know written human language. I'll read it to him. I will read this Gen X indie comic to this big orangutan.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, because I'm not sure when it happens, because there is a scene at the apes camp when he is like he's teaching the alphabet. Maurice is teaching the alphabet.
Learning. Yes.
But yeah, that might just be to like recognize your own name, or like, right? They haven't necessarily been like, okay, now let's try Shakespeare. Let's try comics.
Have you ever read Black Hole?
I have not.
Do you want to do that next month?
I don't, how long is the book? That was a big, hefty book.
It looks chunky. I don't know. If we give ourselves a couple weeks, we could fit in Black Hole.
Potentially. Yeah, let's look at it. I do think we need to get some more comics on the schedule in the near future here. So we'll look into it. Cool. Let me see. Oh, I closed down the wrong thing. My fault. Let me open this back up. Yeah, so I can get bingo pulled up here, because I think we do finally have some things I've been hoping to mark off for what feels like years. Let me put this down to there and then bring this up on screen. There we are. Here's our bingo cards as they stand right now. Melissa, you are the only one with a bingo so far. But let's see. No one breaks into dance. Do we have any actors from Lost? I feel like there's quite a bit of actors here.
No,
I don't know.
in this new one.
Okay. Yeah. Long exposition followed by why you're talking to me. No. Rubber suit monster. No. Reaction of animal to judge trustworthiness.
Okay.
Do we have that?
Those apes know not to trust Tom Felton.
But I guess that begs the question. Animal almost feels like a derogatory term in these movies, right? So do we call the apes animals, or is this like is there a dog? Like, there's that one scene with the dog that is growling at Caesar, and Caesar then like barks back at it, like scared. But like, I don't think that's this kind of scene, right? That's just animal on animal. But you know what I mean? I don't know if we have that.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe this isn't this isn't what we ever intended for that square.
Yeah.
I have minion turns on their boss, but Koba isn't exactly like a minion. Koba is just like a riled up guy who circumstantially has to become part of your party.
I feel like that fits, to be honest.
You think so?
Yeah, because they all look to Caesar as their leader, and in that sense, he kind of commands them to like, hey, you go over here and do this thing. You go and do that.
All right, I'll get that one then.
No mysterious scars, no time loops. Let's see. Magic book, treasure map, tall guy and small guy are friends. I think we got that one between Maurice and the little girl.
Oh, that's sweet.
Tall guy and small guy.
If it's two different species, I don't know. And I don't think it's fair that small guy is like literally a child.
I mean, then do we want to count Bad Ape as like, he's a small guy? He's a little small guy. I don't know. Character overprotective of their car. Do we mention the first guy? I don't know if he's overprotective. He's protective, but he's not overprotective. I don't know.
No.
Nosy neighbor, drop on the side and crime scene. Man, I guess I don't have the ones I thought I had on here. Because we put mocap character on our list of potential things that we could put in one of our squares, and I think I've had that. I think I've had that on my bingo card the past 2 years, and I don't know if I marked that one off really all that much. In those 2 years, I was like, nah, we're never gonna do that one. And then we're like, Planet of the Apes. What if we do those movies?
Oh, you do have a square. You do have a bingo square, which is one of our quota formats where you have to get 3 of something to cross a square off. You have planets, and we intended that in a sci-fi format. But at this point, when Earth has become so very different than what it once was, Planet of the Apes ain't Planet of the Humans anymore.
I see your argument, but I don't know. I wasn't going to put that one on there. I thought of this one as like, we have to physically go to another planet. So if we got a scene with those astronauts actually landing on Mars, then yes, that would have been.
Or if theoretically there were astronauts that came back to Earth, then would you consider it? Because to them, it's like, this is barely the place we left. If this was the Charlton Heston original, even if he found out it was originally Earth, if it was so wildly different from the Earth he came from, would it count as a new planet?
I'd be more willing to go with your argument for the original movie because it's progressed that far, whereas these ones do feel like a prequel. It's Earth slowly changing into that, but it hasn't gotten to that thing yet where they're like, who are these hairless apes? What are these things, right? So I don't know. Man, I
guess we're done.
I got nothing. I thought I would have gotten something. I was so excited. Oh well. Kind of a lame bingo update for this week.
Man.
Oh well.
If only Black Hole was a magic book.
Right. I next year I just need to put like Kirk Ace Vito in a square.
See if we find him.
Right, yeah.
Specific character actors we like. I can cross off Taylor Labine.
Melissa, for people that enjoyed these movies, what else might they like?
Nope.
Nope.
One of
Yeah,
the
sure.
most prolific primate focused films of recent memory. Watch Nope, but more specifically, get your hands on the Blu-ray for Nope and watch the behind the scenes featurette where actor Terry Notary performs Gordy's destruction. And it's
Mm.
a shot, it's all the footage of just him doing it before they added the VFX. So it's just a guy loping around this set, this oversized set that was built oversized to make him look smaller to be chimp sized,
Mhm.
performing Gordy's absolute destruction of everything. That is, not only is that such a powerful scene in a really fantastic movie, but seeing
It's an
it
interesting
behind the
way to,
scenes,
yeah.
just the human performance that went into that is incredible.
Speaking of, I'm pretty sure they've already announced that on the Blu-ray DVD of this fourth upcoming Planet of the Apes movie, there's going to be a version where they don't put the effects on, and you can
Oh,
just see them in,
cool.
like, the actors in the suits. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
fun for a whole
which
film.
I think it's them trying to raise awareness of these motion capture
Good.
actors and
Yes.
stuff like that.
I
So
like that idea a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
then
great.
Terry Notary played Gordy, and I want to say plays Rocket, and maybe a number of
Okay.
other smaller supporting apes in this movie, and apparently has ape camp. I think he's like a performance coach for other
Nice.
actors who do something similar to this. So big
That's
shout out
cool.
to him. I mentioned Phantom Menace earlier. Big shout out to Ahmed Best. While we're talking about motion capture actors, never forget the performance of Ahmed Best. Whether you like Jar Jar Binks or not, that is something
Yeah.
very skillful on a technical level.
Indeed.
Another great chimpanzee movie that we've talked about here on the podcast, Speed Racer.
Yep, sure. Okay. Ape get smart, ape go fast.
Right. This movie reminded me of, we all love Mojo Jojo, but if you remember the Powerpuff
Yes, I love
Girls
Mojo
movie,
Jojo.
the Powerpuff Girls movie, like they had a theatrically released movie in like 2002. I think in that movie, Mojo Jojo calls upon a bunch of his brethren, and it's Mojo Jojo style apes of all sorts of different breeds from all different parts of the
Interesting.
world, also doing their own like Mojo Jojo monologues. I gotta get my hands on that movie. I don't know if it's on Max with like the rest of Powerpuff Girls and other parts of the Cartoon Network library.
I
But
don't
that
know.
theatrically released Powerpuff Girls movie, I remember being very strong, actually.
Cool.
I'd love to watch that again. I've never actually seen Apocalypse Now, but this is the movie that made me push me over the edge into, I have to see this thing. If it is always so clear to me when something is doing an apocalypse now, I have to put my eyes on the actual film and not just numerous pastiches of the film. So I'm
Sure,
going
yeah.
to see it. I Googled what version I'm supposed to watch. I'll do that. I need to watch that Island of Dr. Moreau movie, also featuring Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer. The 90s one that was like such a disaster that the director was like fired partway through, and then he got his
I don't
hands
know
on some
this one.
makeup, and then just, it's such an infamous mess of a movie. It's so
Huh.
it's not just like this movie is bad, but the story behind the movie is so bonkers. It was like filmed in some island somewhere, a place that was like not designed to be filmed. Everyone's really out of their element. The director is fired. The director hangs around the set in secret, just like in a costume as one of the background animal people, and nobody knows he's there, just still skulking around.
Wild.
Marlon Brando insisted on hiring the world's smallest man to like be his sidekick in the movie. So there is literally the world's smallest man just in there. among
Huh.
all these like bizarre animal creatures. There's that movie, and there's also a documentary about the making of the movie. I think it's called Island of Lost Souls. I really
Weird.
wanted to double feature those. I didn't have time this week, much as I didn't have time for the Peter Jackson King Kong.
Yeah.
But everything I've heard about that sounds like such a trip. And again, I need to literally put it in front of my eyes and not just hear somebody talk about it on a podcast.
Sure.
And then finally, that episode of The Simpsons with the Planet of the Apes musical. That episode is called A Fish Called Selma. Please watch and enjoy.
There you go. Good stuff indeed. I think for me, the stuff I would recommend is maybe more like post-apocalyptic stuff, or like those end of the world scenarios. Go watch The Last of Us. Go check out some of the Walking Dead shows if you haven't already. Like it had a lot of like those kind of vibes there with that. I don't know. Other kind of post-apocalyptic stuff. Do I have any good things over here? Actually, here's one. Here's an interesting recommendation. I recently read this manga called Showa. It is a 4-part manga that is a biography, an autobiography. The guy that made the manga was also a soldier in World War II, and it's kind of about his life, his experience in the war, and then like wanting to get involved in art and manga at the same time. And it's just kind of the harrowing experiences that he goes through. And at the same time is giving you a very detailed history of Japan in the Showa era. I think is a fascinating read. It's not It's not the post-apocalyptic stuff, but with this covering like World War II and the Cold War era stuff, there's some things in there that can relate. I think also with the idea of these apes just kind of wanting to find a home, like not really sure what's out there in the world. I feel like maybe the guy that made those mangas he feels kind of similar, of just trying to find his place in the midst of this giant world where things are happening, and maybe he cares, maybe he doesn't, maybe he should, I don't know. Stuff like that. So I would say go check that book out. That was a good book indeed. But yeah, I think those are my recommendations. So for next episode, Melissa, what are we talking about?
We are doing something special. There is a movie both of us had on our lists that would be fun to talk about, and that movie is hitting like its 65th anniversary this year. It's going to be in some sort of special event screening, and we found that both of us in our respective markets of Oklahoma City and St. Louis have the ability to go see this movie on the same day at the same time. So we're going to do that. We're going to have our simultaneous states away theatrical viewings of North by Northwest, the Alfred Hitchcock film, 2 weeks from now. And then that night, we're going to come back and talk about this movie that we just got to see on the big screen.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a movie I know I've seen before, but it was so long ago that I don't really remember what's in it exactly. But I guess on the back end, that means we have a slightly different recording schedule that won't affect anything else that's happening, or like when that episode will come out. But yeah, we thought, why not do some more Alfred Hitchcock? Let's put him down on the table.
Yeah,
so to speak. I don't know, but good stuff with all of that. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for checking it out. Let's see. If you guys want to get in contact with us, you can get in contact with us at the Whatnauts official on Threads. And if you want to stay up to date with me, I guess I need to like retime my speech here at the end if we're only gonna do the like at the whatnot stuff.
I'm sorry I threw you off by saying I don't want to bother with social media anymore.
You're not the only one. Go like, share, subscribe, more YouTube videos that way. This has been number 292 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.